Good morning to all. So in this session, we are going to start with CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science, June 2015, Part B, Series 1. Okay. So in this session, we are going to cover the questions from 21 to 35. Okay. So earlier we completed 2016, 2017, 18, 19, 20, all two sessions of the question papers of CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science, which are available on the channel called World of Competitive Chemistry, right? So in this session, we are going to start with the June 2015 question paper. Let us go and discuss about this series we are going to start. Here, it is the question paper from CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science, June 2015, Part B, Series 1, consisting questions from 21 to 35. Let us start with question number 21. The biological function of carbonic anhydrase and carboxypeptidase A respectively. Here, this is the part of bioinorganic chemistry, right? So here, carbonic anhydrase and carboxypeptidase, two enzymes have been given. What are the uses of these two enzymes we have to depict? First of all, carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase is especially used in the interconversion of bicarbonate ions and carbon dioxide, right? So let us see the entire reaction. Zinc catalyzed reaction it is. This is called carbonic anhydrase. Zinc, which is surrounded by histidine, this is carbonic anhydrase. First, carbon dioxide will react with this carbonic anhydrate, and further subsequent reactions leads to give bicarbonate, where interconversion of this bicarbonate and carbon dioxide is possible. This is a major property of this carbonic anhydrase, right? Let us move on to second compound called carboxypeptidase. In this only it is mentioned carboxypeptidase. That is nothing but so the enzyme which used for the hydrolysis of peptide bond. What is peptide? Peptide is nothing but whenever amino acids get combined, there is a formation of polyamide linkage is possible called peptide linkage, right? So amino acid consisting two functional groups, namely carboxylic acid and amino functional group, right? So if we are going to facilitate the reaction with carboxy terminal, that is said to be carboxypeptidase enzyme. If we are reacted with N terminus, that is aminopeptidase. Okay, two kind of enzymes will be there. Carboxypeptidase will facilitate the hydrolysis reaction from carboxy terminal. That means carboxylic acid terminal, right? Whenever N-terminus protein was taken, here amino group started with the hydrolysis. So that here carboxypeptidase is an enzyme which used to hydrolyze the peptide linkage starting from carboxy terminal, right? So here also we have zinc containing enzyme where zinc is surrounded with two histidine, one kind of GLU. So this amino acid is present. So here this is called polypeptide linkage, and subsequently it got hydrolyzed and we will get the final product, right? So this is the use of carboxypeptidase. Now let us see what are the options given which are correct. Interconversion of carbon dioxide carbonates and hydrolysis of peptide bond respectively. So this is the correct answer, because carbonic anhydrase is the enzyme, zinc catalyzed enzyme used in the interconversion of carbon dioxide and carbonates. And next is about carboxypeptidase is used for the hydrolysis of peptide bond. For question number 21, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 22. Iron nitrogen porphyrin bond distances in the deoxy and oxyhemoglobin respectively. Again, it is a part of inorganic chemistry, bioinorganic chemistry. Here, in case of deoxyhemoglobin and oxyhemoglobin, what is the iron nitrogen bond distance we have to depict? Let us see. This is known as the hemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin, where central iron exists in plastooxidation state and porphyrin ring system is present around the iron, right? Here you can find the 4 pyrrole rings called as 5-membered rings, and 4 6-membered rings are present around this iron. And this is these pyrrole moieties further surrounded with carboxylic acids and vinyl groups. 4 methyl groups will be there. This is the entire structure of hemoglobin. This is the coloring pigment which used to carry the oxygen into our all the body parts, right? So whenever this deoxyhemoglobin was taken, when we consider this iron nitrogen bond, this is called coordinate covalent bond. This nitrogen, being it is the ligand, binds with iron with a coordinate covalent bond. This bond distance in case of deoxyhemoglobin will be 2.1 angstroms. This distance will be 2.1 angstroms. Whenever we observe oxyhemoglobin, here, iron when bounded to oxygen, there is a possibility of +3 oxidation state, right? Iron bounded to oxygen with this +3 oxidation state, it exists in O single bond O minus. So in this case, what happens? Oxyhemoglobin, this is known as oxyhemoglobin, and iron nitrogen bond distance will become 2.0 angstroms. What could be the reason for this one? Because here iron initially +2 state, after binding to oxygen it turned into +3. Whenever +3 oxidation state is there, size of the iron will be concised, because as the cation charge increases, size will be reduced because of increasing the nuclear charge, so that the bond between the iron and the nitrogen will become very strong and it will shrink. Okay, so it is strongly pulling nitrogen towards that, so that bond distance is slightly reduced. Initially 2.1 angstroms because of iron exists in +2. So after binding to oxygen, so that distance between iron and nitrogen is reduced to 2.0 angstroms. So deoxy 2.1, oxyhemoglobin 2.0 angstroms, that is provided in option number 1. For question number 22, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 23. The binding modes of NO, nitrosyl group in 18 electron compounds, cobalt CO taken thrice NO, nickel neta 5 CP NO respectively, right? Both the complexes containing NO group were given. So here nitrosyl group exists in two forms. One is linear, second is bent form, right? So let us predict where linear, where bent form is present. When we observe this cobalt CO taken thrice NO, the structure will be in this manner, right? Here, cobalt, CO, NO will be there, where nitrosyl group exists in linear form, right? This cobalt complex consists of nitrosyl group in linear form. Okay, so let us move on to next one, nickel neta 5 CP NO. When nickel neta 5 CP NO was taken, right? So here initially dicyclopentadienyl 20 electron system is there. If we replace one of the cyclopentadienyl anion with a nitrosyl group, what happens? It turned into NO, which is a stable complex, being it is the 18 electron complex. Let us see how 18 electron complex can be depicted. Total valency electrons is equal to nickel atom associated with D8 and S2 system, 8 plus 2, total 10 electrons will be there. And from the cyclopentadienyl anion, we are getting 5 electrons, being it is neta 5. Neta 5 denotes 5 electrons are given by this one, right? Then when nitrosyl group exists in linear form, it used to contribute how many? 3 electrons will be contributed. Now it will become 18 electrons. 18 electrons. This is the way of calculating total valency electron count present in the given compound. Being it is the linear, it used to contribute 3 electrons. If you are taking bent form, only 1 electron. So based on its structure, there is a possibility of a change in its electron contribution. Nitrosyl able to contribute 3 electrons in the linear form, and the bent form will give only 1 electron. Let us see for this cobalt also. Here cobalt complex, total valency electron count is equal to 7 plus 2, 9 electrons given from cobalt D7 system, 7 plus 2 electrons, so it will become 9. Then carbonyl groups, how many are there? 3 carbonyl groups are there, each will contribute 2 electrons, 3 into 2. Then nitrosyl group, nitrosyl group will give 3 electrons total, it will become how many? 9 plus 6, 15, 15 plus 3, total 18 electron system. So if we don't know the chemical structure of the compound, based on total valency electron count also you can depict whether it is linear one or bent molecule. Okay, so if it is contributing 3 electrons to satisfy 18 electron system, you clearly assume that it is in linear form, right? So if 18 electron rule obeyed with only 1 electron of nitrosyl, then that nitrosyl is in bent form. But in both the cases, nitrosyl group exists in linear and it used to contribute 3 electrons in order to obey 18 electron rule, right? So here linear and linear are provided for cobalt and nickel complex, that is given in the option number 3. For question number 23, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 24. The role of copper salt as a co-catalyst in the Walker's process, right? So what is the role of copper salt as a co-catalyst in the Walker's process? First of all, let us see what is Walker's process. Walker's process is the transformation of olefinic double bond into carbonylic ketone is called Walker's process in the presence of palladium chloride and copper chloride bubbling with oxygen, DMF, dimethyl formamide and water taken in 7:1 ratio as a solvent media, and reaction temperature is 60 to 70 degrees centigrade. This entire process is said to be Walker's process, where double bond turned into ketonic compound. So whenever this double bond is treated with water in the presence of palladium chloride and copper chloride, what is the transformation? Copper plus 2, here copper plus 2 exists in, so this copper plus 2 used to transform palladium into palladium plus 2. Palladium 0 turned into palladium plus 2 in the presence of copper plus 2, right? So that is provided in option number 1. Palladium 0 turned into oxidation of palladium 0 by copper plus 2 is possible. Palladium 0 turned into palladium plus 2. Right? So that is the main use of copper salt. What kind of nature? Copper plus 2 nature, right? So that is provided in option number 1. For question number 24, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 25. For a typical Fischer and Schrock carbene, consider the following statements. Okay, here two kind of carbenes are available for us. One is called Fischer carbene, second is called a Schrock carbene. So let us discuss about these two in detail. Fischer carbene complex are usually formed when metal centers with a low oxidation state. Schrock carbene complex are formed with the metal centers having higher oxidation state. Okay, so lower oxidation state bounded carbenes are called Fischer. Higher oxidation state metal bounded carbenes are called Schrock carbenes. Then because of electronically different metal ligand environment, so these ligand environments are entirely different. Fischer carbene environment and this Schrock carbene environment is entirely different, opposite. Okay. In case of Fischer carbene, they undergo nucleophilic attachment with a carbon center. So incoming nucleophile react with this one, being it is the electrophilic center. When it is electrophilic, then only it can bind with nucleophilic reagent. Whereas Schrock carbene can be attached with electrophile so that it will be nucleophilic. Schrock carbene is nucleophilic, Fischer carbene is electrophilic in nature. Then only they bind with the opposite nature, opposite electrophile or nucleophile respectively. Okay, so when the metal possesses pi acidic ligand or pi basic ligand, Fischer carbene will react with pi acidic ligand. So pi acidic ligands are not required. Neutral ligands are required for Schrock carbene. Pi acidic ligands are required for Fischer, whereas neutral ligands are required for Schrock carbene. So based on these statements, let us see which are correct. in the given problem. So Fisher and Shaw carbene statements that we have to observe. Oxidation state of metal low for Fisher carbene, higher in Shaw carbene. This is the correct statement. Auxiliary ligands pi acceptor in Fisher carbene, non-pi acceptor in the Shaw carbene. This is the correct statement. Just now we saw pi acceptor nature is there for Fisher and non-pi acceptor nature is there for Shaw carbene. Substituents and the carbene are non-pi donor Fisher carbene, pi donor in the Shaw carbene. This is the wrong statement. So substituents and the carbene, pi donors in Fisher carbene, non-pi donors in the Shaw carbene. Okay, that is the correct one. So the given option is wrong. C option is wrong. Carbene carbon is electrophilic in Fisher and nucleophilic in Shaw. This is the correct statement because Fisher carbene selectively reacts with nucleophile, Shaw carbene selectively reacts with electrophile because of these natures, right? So for question number 25, A is correct, B is correct, D is correct, C is incorrect. A, B, D provided in the option number 2. For question number 25, option number 2 is the correct answer, right? Let us move on to question number 26. The species having the strongest gas phase proton affinity among the following. Proton affinity is nothing but either it may be negatively charged or neutral in nature, having tendency to bind with H plus, so that there is a formation of either neutral or positively charged compound is called proton affinity. This reaction carried in the gaseous phase. Let us see the definition of proton affinity. Proton affinity of the anion or neutral atom. Anion, neutral atom are the negatively charged species by combining with the H plus in the gaseous phase is said to be a proton affinity. Okay, so how extent it able to react with H plus, that is known as its a proton affinity. So when we see the given options N-3, NF3, NH3, NCH3 taken thrice, all the compounds which are composed of nitrogen atom only, but their electronic environments are different. Okay, in order to abstract the proton, H plus abstraction, it is obvious that N-3 having higher electron density and the proton having higher positivity, unipositivity upon that, so that strong tendency is given for this N-3 only, because electrons present upon this nitrogen, 3 electrons, and the nitrogen is highly unstable. It has strong tendency to bind with H plus, so that it turned into a neutral species after getting more 3 protons, right? Higher proton affinity is given for this N-3 obviously when compared to remaining all. Let us see. This is the table where we can find the all kind of nature, where N-3 having 2855 kilojoules per mole proton affinity. Whenever NH2 minus, that means a uni-negative charge is there, that's why extent of proton abstraction will be reduced, that will be 1697. In this way, NH3 when taken here, being it is a neutral one, 859 kilojoules per mole is the proton affinity value, right? So this is the data which is clearly depicting that N-3 having higher rate of proton affinity, that is given in the option number 1. For question number 26, option number 1 is the correct answer. That is purely because of higher negative charge in the nitrogen is highly unfavorable, so that having strong tendency to absorb the proton and turned into a neutral species, right? So for question number 26, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 27. Consider the following statements regarding diffusion current at dropping mercury electrode. The dropping mercury electrode is said to be a polarizable electrode. Always it regarded as a polarizable electrode. And this dropping mercury electrode mainly depends upon the drop time and the temperature. So whatever drop time, so how the drop time, how much time required for that dropping mercury, and also what is the temperature we are operating at. So these two are the important parameters in order to determine this diffusion current at dropping mercury electrode. And this is the entire setup of dropping mercury electrode. So this is the system where dropping electrode mercury is inserted into this. Okay, so here pure mercury was taken, and here inlet of nitrogen will be there, nitrogen gas bubbled into this one, and subsequently nitrogen gas is coming from this outlet, capillary tube will be there. So one of the electrode will be dropping mercury, and second is standard columnar electrode was inserted. From this inlet we are pouring hydrogen. So this is a hydrogen reservoir where hydrogen will be stored. So whenever it is required, hydrogen will be entered into the system through the capillary, right? And here both the systems, anode and cathode, both are connected by the salt bridge, which is made up of agar-agar. Okay, so this is about the entire system of dropping mercury electrode. And let us see which statements are correct with respect to this dropping mercury electrode diffusion current. It does not depends upon mercury flow rate. This is wrong. It depends upon the drop time. This is a correct one. It depends upon the temperature. So B, C options are correct, which are provided in option number 4. For question number 27, option number 4 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 28. Q value for the reaction N13C13 is 3.236 mega electronic volts. The threshold energy in mega electronic volts for the reaction C13N13 is, Q value is provided, threshold energy is needed to be calculated. Threshold energy is nothing but whenever inelastic scattering reaction corresponds to energy of the nuclear level on which neutron is scattered. Okay, so threshold energy is nothing but, so scattering reaction when performed on the nucleus of the system, so neutron will be scattered, the extent of energy is said to be threshold energy. That threshold energy denoted with EP. So EP is equal to mod Q 1 plus MP by N13 and C13. This is the empirical formula in order to calculate threshold energy. Q is given within the problem, that is 3.236. 3.236 is the Q value into 1 plus MP is given as proton, that is 1, by N13 C13 it is given as 13. Okay, when we calculate 3.236 into 1 plus 1 by 13, nothing but 3.484 mega electronic volts. Okay, so 3.485 mega electronic volts provided in option number 3. For question number 28, option number 3 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 29. So it is the part of analytical spectroscopy where tin 119 labeled isotopic spectrum, NMR spectrum chemical shift approximately in ppm corresponding to neta phi Cp taken twice Sn related to tetramethyltin is. This is a standard compound. Tetramethyltin is the standard compound. With respect to this, where this neta phi Cp to Sn will be appeared, that's to be predicted. On which spectroscopy? Tin 119 NMR chemical shift. So this can be employed on this scale. Neta phi Cp to Sn will give the signal at which position, that should be predicted. For that purpose, we have here 10 possible isotopes are like this: tin 115, and next is about tin 117, next is about tin 119. Okay, these many allotropic forms, isotopic forms are available, and tin 119 will be the topmost region. And whenever this tin 119 is applied, these are the regions for various functional groups. Okay, whenever Cp to Sn was taken, this will appear on the delta scale near minus 2000 ppm. Okay, so greater than minus 2000 ppm, almost it is 2200 ppm. Tin tetraiodide will give the peak at 1500. So metal class tin will give near this 1500 again. When tin halides present, that also give near 1500. Tin halides will give at 1000 region. Alkyl thiotin will give at 0. So this is the standard peak where tetramethyltin will give. Tetramethyltin peak will be standard. This is the internal standard. So 0. So in proton NMR, we will take TMS, right? Tetramethylsilane. In the similar manner, here we are taking tetramethyltin as the internal standard. So, and these are the various regions of another kind of functional groups. Among all, they are asking for NETA5CP2SN. That NETA5CP2SN will appear more than -200. This is the completely appealed. So that is provided in option number 4, right? So -4 plus 137 plus 346, all these are wrong statements. -2200 is the corresponding peak for this NETA5CP2SN. For question number 29, option number 4 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 30. All forms of phosphorus upon melting exist as. What we are doing, we are taking all kind of allotropic forms of phosphorus and we are heating in a single vessel. What is the formed product we have to depict, right? For that purpose, we are taking all forms of phosphorus here. Phosphorus exists in 3 allotropic form. One is called white phosphorus, second is called red phosphorus, third is called black phosphorus, right? So in our bones also we have calcium phosphate, right? So phosphorus available in the human organisms in the form of calcium phosphate, right? So in this way, phosphorus exists in 3 allotropic form. One is white, red, and also black phosphorus are present. So this is the structure of white phosphorus, and red phosphorus is a continuous chain. And here is the black phosphorus where 3-dimensional network will be present. Cross-linked polymer is there. Okay, mostly monomeric form will be there. These circles, this ball type of circles will indicate phosphorus atom, and white phosphorus exists in this tetrahedral structure, and that kind of tetrahedral structures are linked in a linear manner, leads to form red phosphorus. This red phosphorus available in the matchsticks, and black phosphorus is also present. So this is a cross-linked 3-dimensional arrangement, most stable form. Highly reactive kind of phosphorus will be white phosphorus, right? So when we are taking all these kind of phosphorus in the single reaction vessel and subjected to melting, all get converted into only one form, that is the tetrahedral form. Tetrahedral phosphorus is obtained, that is provided in the option number 1. For question number 30, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 31. For the oxidation state of sulfur atom in S2O, consider the following. S2O is represented in this manner. S double bond S, and here O will be there. This is S2O structure. So in order to predict its oxidation state, there is a possibility of a formula 2x plus 0 is equal to 2x plus oxygen is equal to 0. 2x denotes what? X denotes sulfur atoms. How many sulfur atoms are there? 2 sulfur atoms are there. So for each sulfur, how much we have to predict? That's why we are taking as x. 2x plus minus 2 is equal to 0. 2x is equal to 2. X is equal to 2 by 2 means 1. But sulfur plus 1 state is not available. Hence, the possible oxidation states can be depicted as -2 and +4, 0 and +2. Then only it is possible to get same kind of relation, right? One of the sulfur is -2, another sulfur is +2. This is one form. 0 and +2 will be another form. So in this way, both are possible. -2 and +4, 0 and +2, both are possible for S2O. So both are given in option number 1. For question number 31, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 32. The correct set of pseudo-halide anion is. Pseudo-halide is nothing but that resembles a halogen. Pseudo-halides are the pseudo-halogens are polyatomic analogues of halogens whose chemistry resembling halogen. They are not exactly halogens, but their reactivity is somewhat resembled with the halogen atoms. So allows them to substitute for halogen in several classes of chemical compound. Wherever halogen is there, we can replace those halogens with these type of pseudo-halogen compounds, being these are identical with respect to their chemical properties. That's the reason why pseudo-halides can be easily replace normal halogens in the chemical reactions. Here, some of the examples like cyanide, cyanate, fulminate, thiocyanate, and azide. These are the examples which comes under pseudo-halide compounds, which are provided in cyanide, azide, thiocyanate, NCS -2. All are provided in option number 4. Okay, so these are the exact compounds which resembles halides, so that we can say these are called pseudo halides. So for question number 32, option number 4 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 33. In transition metal phosphide MPR3 complex, back bonding involves the donation of electrons. So here, in general, ligand to metal electron donation so that coordinate covalent bond formation is possible. But in case of some ligands, there is a possibility of back bonding. Back bonding in the sense metal to ligand electrons will be contributed. Metal to ligand, it is clearly depicted here. Metal used to give the electron so that there is a bond formation is possible. So this kind of nature is available between metal with trialkyl phosphine. So metal with a trialkyl phosphine, this kind of linkage is possible whenever phosphorus atom bounded to carbon participate in sigma antibonding orbitals. In accordance with molecular orbital theory, these are being vacant in nature so that these orbitals are used to accept electrons from T2G level of the metal. Here, metal is giving, so this orbital is said to be T2G orbital, right? Triply degenerated orbital, that may be dx by dyz or dzx. That orbital is contributing electrons towards the ligand, that is R3. Which orbital? Sigma star antibonding orbital is accepting these electrons, right? That is provided in option number 1. Metal T2G2 sigma star PR3 is accepting electrons. For question number 33, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 34. The refluxing rhodium Cl3 3H2O with excess of PPH3 in ethanol gives a complex A. Complex A and valency electron count in the rhodium respectively. Whenever rhodium trichloride trihydrate treated with PPH3, triphenyl phosphine, there is a formation of complex known as Wilkinson catalyst. This is a known catalyst and most essential in the inorganic chemistry, right? Wilkinson catalyst will be generated. That Wilkinson catalyst having the structure of square planar and contributing 16 electron system, right? Let us see the structure in detail. Wilkinson catalyst is given by rhodium ClPPH3 taken thrice, where pH denotes what? Phenyl group, right? This is a kind of square planar complex where rhodium exists in dsp2 hybridization. This is the structure. Rhodium surrounded with 3 PPH3 groups on the regular square planar corners, and one of the corner is contributed by chlorine, being it is negatively charged, hence it imparts a +1 charge on the rhodium, right? So rhodium is of 5s2 4d7 electronic configuration system, right? So here it participates in dsp2 hybridization, hence we can clearly say it is a kind of square planar, and there is a formation of rhodium chloro PPH3 taken thrice compound. Total valency electron count, outer electrons how many? 9 electrons are there, so it contributing 9 electrons, and the chlorine will give only 1 electron. And how many PPH3 units are there? 3 PPH3 units are there. 3 into 2, it will become 16 electron system, right? So 16 electron system with rhodium chloro PPH3 taken thrice, that is given in the option number 1. For question number 34, option number 1 is the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 35. This is the last question of the series. The beta hydrogen elimination will be facile in all the compounds: metal with alpha beta hydrogen, metal with alpha beta hydrogen, metal with alpha beta hydrogen, metal with alpha beta hydrogen. But their electronic environment is different. Here the carbon is of sp3, here the carbon is of sp2, here it is also sp2, here it is of sp hybridized carbon, right? So let us see what is meant by beta hydrogen elimination, how this hybridization will influence this extent of hydrogen elimination reaction. When any metal surrounded with ligand and also this carbon carbon containing ligand with a beta hydrogen, beta free hydrogen is available. In that case, there is a possibility of hydrogen shifting from alkyl group to central metal. So this hydrogen may shift from carbon to metal through the formation of carbon-carbon double bond. So it turned into olefinic double bond, and hydrogen shifted to metal. This is called beta hydrogen elimination. Beta hydrogen present in the carbon will be shifted to metal, so that here olefinic double bond will be generated. Okay, so in order to explain its rate of reaction, sp3 having higher rate of this beta hydrogen elimination, because that having strong tendency to lose, and sp2 being S character. So S character decreases, what happens? Electronegativity also decreases. sp3 having 25% of contribution of S character, sp2 66%, sp having 50% S character. So that hydrogen easily removed from sp3 carbon when compared to sp2, when compared to sp carbon atom. So that's the reason why first compound having sp3 hybridized carbon atom, whose reactivity is more towards this beta hydrogen elimination. For question number 35, option number 1 is the correct answer. By this we completed series number 1. So in the series number 1, question number 21 to 35 have been completed of CSIR NET JRF Chemical Science June 2015 question paper. In the next series, we will cover remaining questions. Remaining 15 questions are going to be covered in this. So I think it will be helpful for your preparation. Thank you very much for your patience listening. Thank you one and all.